The air crackled with Manhattan energy at the Gotham Club, where fortunes were made and broken over poker chips. Arthur Sterling, Wall Street titan, sat with his crew, millionaires all, drowning in laughter and the clinking of glasses. Business deals and boasts flew across the table, the usual playground for their egos. Then Hank, with a smirk that could curdle milk, threw down a gauntlet. "Arthur, you always brag about getting anything you want," Hank drawled, smoke curling from his cigar. "But could you actually transform someone beneath you? Someone way, way beneath you?" Gus, ever the instigator, jumped in. "Yeah, I'm talking bottom of the barrel, Arthur. A woman you wouldn't glance at twice. Could you turn her into someone refined, someone you'd actually date within 6 months?" Arthur's eyes narrowed, a flicker of intrigue battling with his usual arrogance. His friends, a pack of wolves in bespoke suits, watched him, hungry for the spectacle. Gus's challenge hung heavy in the opulent air. Not just a makeover, but a full-blown romantic performance. A slow, predatory smile stretched across Arthur's lips, the kind that meant trouble. 6 months? You think that's all it takes?" he purred, enjoying their disbelief. "You think I can't completely reinvent someone and then fall for them?" Hank nodded, pushing the knife in deeper. "Exactly. We want to see you genuinely smitten, Arthur. Head over heels, prove you can mold this woman into someone we'd all recognize as your equal, a lady of your world." Silence descended, thick with anticipation. Then, Arthur's laugh boomed, confident and reckless. He slammed his hand on the mahogany table, the sound echoing through the room. "Deal. 6 months. I'll transform any woman you pick into a sophisticated beauty, and I'll date her like she's the love of my life. You'll all eat your words." Cheers erupted, the room vibrating with their excitement. Hank, his eyes scanning the room with predatory glee, stopped at a figure near the bar. It was Claire, a waitress, wiping down tables, invisible in her simple uniform, her hair pulled back, exhaustion etched on her face. "How about her?" Hank sneered, pointing at Claire. "Perfect. Poor, plain, totally off your radar." Arthur studied Claire for a long moment, dissecting her appearance, her posture. She was the very definition of unnoticed, always working, no time for vanity, the antithesis of his usual conquests. "Deal," Arthur repeated, his voice hardening with determination. 6 months to transform Claire the waitress into someone unrecognizable, and yes, I'll date her like she's my dream girl. The next day, Arthur started his game. He haunted the diner where Claire worked, always at a corner booth, observing, dropping casual charm like expensive cologne. Claire, initially wary of the sudden attention, found herself slowly drawn in by his persistence, his practiced smile. One afternoon, Arthur made his move. "Claire," he said, leaning forward, his voice smooth as velvet, "you work too hard. How about a night off? Dinner tomorrow? Just to talk. My treat." Claire hesitated, a mix of suspicion and longing in her eyes, but the idea of escape of a night off was too tempting. "Okay," she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. Dinner was at a trendy spot downtown, far removed from Claire's world. Arthur was the perfect gentleman, attentive, interested, asking about her life, her dreams, her struggles. He was careful, a master manipulator, never letting his true intention slip. He wove a narrative of genuine interest, and Claire, starved for attention, began to believe. After a few weeks of carefully orchestrated dates, Arthur moved to phase 2. Strolling through Central Park one evening, he stopped, took Claire's hand, and gazed into her eyes, feigning vulnerability. "Claire," he murmured, his voice husky, "I know this might be fast, but I really enjoy being with you. I want to see where this could go. Would you be my girlfriend?" Claire's heart hammered against her ribs. A man like Arthur Sterling, interested in her. It felt like a fairy tale. A shy smile bloomed on her face. "Yes," she breathed, unaware she was stepping into a carefully constructed trap. Arthur felt a cold satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. But a sliver of unease, a tiny crack in his carefully constructed facade, began to form. This game, he sensed, might be more complicated than he'd anticipated. Claire had no idea she was a pawn in a millionaire's game, a bet to be won. For Arthur, it was about proving his power, his control. But even he couldn't foresee how deeply this game would twist, how much more than appearances would be transformed. Arthur believed transformation was a simple equation. Money plus charm equals compliant subject. Claire, he thought, would be putty in his hands. He was wrong. Her quiet strength, her unexpected resistance became a challenge he hadn't anticipated. The makeover began at the most exclusive salon uptown. Claire walked in, feeling like an imposter in a world of polished surfaces and whispered luxury. Impeccably dressed stylists, wealthy women exuding effortless superiority. It was a world designed to make her feel invisible. She almost turned and ran. "Claire, trust me," Arthur said, a hand lightly on her shoulder, a forced reassurance she didn't feel. She turned, her eyes meeting his, a flicker of defiance in their depths. "For me or for you, Arthur?" she asked, her voice quiet but sharp. "Because it feels like you're trying to mold me into something you need, not what I want to be." Arthur was momentarily thrown. He wasn't used to pushback, especially not from someone he considered malleable. He recovered quickly, forcing a smile. "Claire, I want to help you become the best version of yourself. You deserve this. You deserve everything." Claire was silent, her gaze unwavering, a mixture of doubt and skepticism swirling within her. She sat in the salon chair as the stylist began, the snip of scissors slicing through her old hairstyle, a symbolic severing of her past. When she finally looked in the mirror, a stranger stared back. Beautiful, sophisticated, yes, but distant, unfamiliar. She touched her new haircut, the sleek lines feeling foreign. "Is everything okay?" Arthur asked, watching her reflection with an almost clinical intensity. Claire took a breath, her eyes still locked on the mirror. "Honestly, I don't know this woman. She's beautiful, but she's not me. Who is this for, Arthur? You or me? Who really benefits from this?" A tightness gripped Arthur's chest. Her honesty was a jab he hadn't expected. He forced a brighter smile, a practiced charm offensive. "Claire, this is so you can see your potential, so you realize you can achieve anything. This world, this life, it can be yours. I'm opening doors for you." The following weeks were a whirlwind of designer clothes, exclusive boutiques, and endless lessons in etiquette. Stylists fawned over Claire, draping her in silks and jewels, whispering about her potential. But with each expensive dress, each refined accessory, Claire felt less like herself, more like a mannequin in Arthur's elaborate display. In a Fifth Avenue boutique, Claire stood in a stunning red silk gown, the fabric clinging to her transformed figure. She turned to Arthur, who stood back, assessing her with a detached, critical eye. Suddenly, frustration boiled over. "Arthur, I feel like a doll." Claire exploded, her voice raw with vulnerability. "A showpiece, something you can dress up and parade around for your friends. What's your real goal here? You want to turn me into some ideal, but what about me? Where do I fit in?" Arthur's composure wavered. Claire's words were hitting too close to the bone, exposing a truth he'd been carefully avoiding. She wasn't just an experiment. He took a breath, trying to regain control. "Claire, I see a potential in you that deserves to be unleashed. I want you to have the opportunities I have, to be respected, to be seen. Or is it the potential you need me to have?" Claire shot back, her voice trembling with anger. "To prove something to someone? I'm starting to think this isn't about me at all. It's about you, and some twisted game of control." A flicker of irritation flashed in Arthur's eyes, his carefully constructed mask cracking. He was used to control, and Claire was slipping through his fingers, questioning everything. He forced a smile, strained and thin. "Claire, you're misinterpreting everything." The conflicts escalated. At a dinner at the Gilded Lily, Arthur meticulously explained the complex rules of a society gala, the precise choreography of forks and conversation. Claire slammed her silverware on the table, the clatter echoing in the hushed restaurant. "This is all an act, isn't it?" Claire said, her voice low and tight with pain. "You want me to fit into your world, but you're just pretending to care, pretending this is about me when it's really all about you." A chill ran down Arthur's spine. Was she right? Was he just pretending? He plastered on a confident smile. "Of course I care, Claire. I want you to see how amazing you are, how much you can achieve." But Claire wasn't buying it. She saw cracks in Arthur's perfect facade, glimpses of something hidden, something vulnerable. Behind the control, behind the confidence, there was something he was hiding, maybe even from himself. The emotional battle continued during dance lessons. As they moved stiffly across the ballroom floor, Claire abruptly stopped, pushing him away, her face a mix of anger and confusion. "Tell me the truth, Arthur," she demanded, her voice breaking. "Why are you really doing this? What are you trying to prove by investing so much in someone like me? What's your real game?" Arthur felt the carefully constructed ground beneath him shift. He looked into her eyes and knew she was close, too close, to uncovering his bet, the secret that fueled this whole charade. He scrambled for words, but they felt hollow, inadequate. "Because you deserve more, Claire," he stammered. I want you to believe you're capable of anything." He hesitated, a flicker of something real in his eyes, something he couldn't control. "And maybe I'm discovering that I need you more than I thought." Claire blinked, surprised, but still skeptical. She sensed a sliver of truth in his confession, but could she trust it? Arthur's gaze was conflicted, unsure. Was he finally opening up, or just perfecting his role? The weeks that followed were an emotional roller coaster. Arthur had underestimated Claire, her resilience, her quiet strength. For Claire, every step in her transformation felt like a betrayal of herself. One evening, after another grueling etiquette lesson, Arthur took Claire to a rooftop restaurant, glittering with city lights. She looked stunning in a sleek black dress, turning heads, radiating a newfound confidence. But in her eyes, Arthur still saw a shadow of doubt. He raised his glass. "To your incredible transformation, Claire," he toasted, trying to inject lightness into the tense atmosphere. "You're becoming everything I knew you could be." Claire slowly raised her glass, her eyes locked on Arthur's. There was a new intensity in her gaze, making him uneasy. "Arthur," she said, her voice low and firm, "I'm becoming what you want me to be, but tell me, is this what you really wanted all along? To mold me into your version of perfect?" Arthur was taken aback by her directness. For a split second, his mask slipped, and Claire saw a flicker of something raw, vulnerable. He quickly regained control, his eyes shifting away from hers. "Claire, you're seeing this all wrong," he began, his voice too smooth, too practiced. "I want you to see your own worth, the potential I know is inside you. You're so much more than you realize." Claire interrupted him, placing her glass down with a sharp click. Her face was set, her eyes piercing. "That's not what this is about, Arthur. I feel like this is more about you than me, like you're trying to mold me to satisfy some need of yours, something you're not telling me." Arthur opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat. He felt exposed, vulnerable. Claire's words had pierced his armor, and he didn't know how to react to this new, stronger version of her. The tension between them tightened in the days that followed. One afternoon, in another designer boutique, Claire tried on an exquisite gown under the watchful eyes of sales staff and Arthur. She stared at her reflection, her fingers tracing the delicate lace, then turned to face him. "Arthur, tell me something," she asked, her voice tight with frustration. "Why are you so determined to change me? Am I a real woman to you, or just an experiment to prove you can control anyone?" Arthur felt the impact of her words like a physical blow. He'd never been challenged so directly, especially not by someone he thought he was shaping. He knew he had to tread carefully, or he risked losing everything. "Claire, you don't understand. I never wanted to control you. I want you to see you deserve to be in this world, that you belong here as much as anyone else," he replied, but his words sounded weak, defensive. "Or is it that you just want to win a bet, Arthur?" Claire shot back, her tone laced with barely contained fury. "Because that's what it feels like this is all just a game to you, and I'm the pawn you're moving around to satisfy your ego." Arthur's face tightened, and for a moment a flash of genuine pain flickered in his eyes. Claire was too close to the truth, and he felt like he was losing control. That same night, after another bitter argument, Arthur took her to Central Park, trying to diffuse the tension. They stopped by the lake, bathed in moonlight, the silence heavy with unspoken words. Claire took a deep breath, trying to control the storm of emotions raging within her. She turned to Arthur, the moonlight reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. "Arthur, please tell me the truth," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "Why are you really doing this? What's your true motive for investing so much in someone like me?" Arthur felt his carefully constructed world collapsing. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, his phone buzzed. "Hank," he answered, Hank's voice smooth, laced with malice. "Hey, Arthur, how's the project going? Bet that little waitress still has no clue she's just part of your little game, right?" Claire heard every word. Time seemed to stop. Arthur snapped the phone shut, but it was too late. "Project?" Claire repeated, the word like poison on her tongue. "I'm a project to you, Arthur? Just a bet?" Arthur reached for her hand, but she recoiled as if burned. "Claire, let me explain, please. It's not what you think. In the beginning, yes, it was a bet, but I've changed. My feelings for you have changed." Claire slowly shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "So it's true, all of this, the transformation, the smiles, the kind gestures, all a lie, just to win a stupid bet?" Arthur felt crushed by his own deceit, guilt suffocating him. He'd never imagined this game, born of pride and vanity, would shatter something real. Claire gave him one last look, her eyes filled with a profound sadness he'd never witnessed before. "You played with my feelings, Arthur," she whispered. You made me believe in something beautiful, something that could have been real, and all you did was use me to satisfy your pathetic ego." She turned and walked away, leaving Arthur standing alone, his world crumbling around him. He realized with a sickening lurch that the most profound transformation was his own, and it was the one thing he desperately tried to avoid. Arthur understood too late that Claire was more than a bet. She was the only real thing in his gilded, superficial life. And now he'd lost her. Lost his only chance at honesty, not just with her, but with himself. The silence after Claire left was deafening, suffocating. Arthur knew he'd made a catastrophic mistake, and there was no escaping the consequences. Claire, meanwhile, was adrift in a sea of pain and betrayal. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw Arthur's creation, a stranger molded to fit his desires. Determined to confront the truth, Claire sought out Arthur, finding him alone in his penthouse, overlooking the glittering city that suddenly felt cold and empty. When she walked in, he looked up, a flicker of desperate hope in his eyes, but Claire's face was a mask of ice. "Arthur," she began, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her heart, "I need you to be honest, for once in your life. What's the truth behind all this? Why did you really come into my life? I want to hear it from you." Arthur's throat tightened, his body rigid. He knew he couldn't run anymore. Claire deserved the truth, even if it destroyed any chance he had left. "Claire," he started, lowering his head in shame. "In the beginning, it was a bet." Claire's face paled, the pain in her eyes a broken reflection of all the illusions he'd created, now shattering around them. "A bet?" she repeated, her voice cracking with disbelief and rage. "So all this time, everything, just a game? I was just a toy for your inflated ego?" Arthur moved closer, desperation etched on his face. "At first, yes, it was. But Claire, that changed. You changed everything for me. I never thought I'd care so much. But now, you're more than just a bet. You're everything." Claire recoiled, shaking her head, refusing to believe any more of his carefully crafted words. "No, Arthur, you can't just say your feelings changed and expect everything to be okay. You made me believe I was special, that I had value, and it was all just to use me." She turned to the panoramic window, staring at the city lights, taking a shaky breath. "You never saw me, did you?" she whispered, turning back to face him, tears welling in her eyes. "You only saw the challenge, the chance to prove you could mold anyone into your image. But I'm not a project, Arthur. I'm a person." Arthur reached out to her, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. "I know, Claire. I know that now. I made a terrible mistake. But you have to believe me, my feelings for you are real. Please, give me a chance to prove it. I don't want this to end." Claire stared at him, the internal battle raging within her, pain and betrayal warring with the lingering embers of something real. "Arthur," she said, her voice heavy with a sadness that seemed irreparable, "you destroyed everything that could have been beautiful between us. I'll never know if what you feel is real, or just another ploy to win. I can't trust you anymore." Her words were like a blade, severing the last threads of Arthur's pride. For the first time, he stood naked, vulnerable, stripped of his defenses. He realized there were things money couldn't buy, things he couldn't control, most importantly, Claire's feelings. In a desperate, last-ditch effort, he took her hand, looking directly into her eyes, a raw vulnerability he'd never shown anyone. "I know I can't undo what I did, Claire, but let me try to fix this. Let me show you that, as wrong as it was, my heart has changed. You changed me." Claire let out a shaky sigh, gently pulling her hand away. "Maybe, Arthur, maybe you've changed. But the truth is, you broke me first, and I don't know if I can forgive that." She turned to leave, each step a lead weight in her chest. Arthur stood alone in the suffocating silence of his penthouse, realizing the most important transformation wasn't Claire's but his own, a change that had come too late. As Claire walked away, a single tear traced a path down Arthur's cheek. He'd never imagined the real bet wasn't about changing Claire, but about changing himself. And now, losing her, he finally understood that the one thing he truly wanted could never be won by force. Arthur Sterling, the man who always got what he wanted, was finally defeated by the one thing that truly mattered, the love of a woman he'd so carelessly underestimated. The days after their devastating confrontation were the hardest Claire had ever faced. She retreated into herself, trying to piece together her shattered heart to make sense of the cruel deception. Every thought of Arthur was a painful mix of anger, sadness, and a longing she desperately tried to suppress. Arthur, meanwhile, was consumed by regret. The arrogance that had always defined him was gone, replaced by a hollow ache. The thought of losing Claire was unbearable, and for the first time he was willing to shed his carefully constructed persona, to be vulnerable, to fight for something real. He knew he had to do something extraordinary to prove his transformation was genuine. One night, Claire stood at her apartment window, gazing at the city lights twinkling like fallen stars, when a soft knock echoed through her small apartment. Her heart leaped. Arthur. She opened the door, hesitant, to find him standing there, weary, his usual confidence replaced by a raw vulnerability. She stood in the doorway, silent. "Claire, please, just hear me out," Arthur pleaded, his voice hoarse, trembling. "I know I don't deserve another minute of your time, but I have to try. I need you to know that as much as I started this in the worst possible way, my feelings for you are real." Claire crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering, distant. "Arthur, I've heard these words before, and all they did was hurt me. Why should I believe you now? What's to say this isn't just another move to satisfy your ego?" Arthur swallowed hard, frustration and desperation warring within him. Words, he knew, wouldn't be enough this time. He had to show her, to offer something real, something from the heart. "I can't change what I did, Claire," he began, his voice barely a whisper, "but I can change who I am. And for you, I'm willing to be someone I've never been for anyone. I'm here not for a bet, not for pride, but because I love you. And I only realized how much you meant to me when I thought I'd lost you." Claire blinked, surprised by the raw vulnerability in his eyes. He was stripped bare, defenseless, confronting his own flaws. He did seem different. "If you truly love me, Arthur," she said slowly, pain and a fragile hope mingling in her voice, "then you need to give me space, to figure out if I can trust you again. I can't just erase everything you did. You broke my trust, and that doesn't get fixed with promises." Arthur nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He understood. Claire needed time, and he would wait however long it took, even if it destroyed him. He stepped back, respecting her space. But before leaving, he handed her a small envelope. "If you decide to give me one last chance, I'll be waiting for you at our favorite spot tomorrow night," he said, his voice cracking with a mix of hope and fear. "If you don't show, I'll understand, and I won't bother you again. I promise." Claire took the envelope, her gaze fixed on it, unreadable. Arthur turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Alone in her apartment, Claire finally opened the envelope, her hands trembling. Inside, a handwritten letter from Arthur. Tears streamed down her face as she began to read. "Claire, writing this letter is the hardest thing I've ever done. For the first time, I'm completely unmasked, no excuses, just me, the person I was too foolish to show you before. I don't have the words to explain how much I regret starting all of this as a bet, treating you like a game when you should have been treated like the most precious thing in the world. I was stupid, selfish, and blind to what was right in front of me. You taught me that true transformation isn't about what others see in you, but about what you see in yourself. And when I saw the strength, beauty, and truth you carried inside, that's when I knew I was lost. Forever. You changed everything for me, Claire. You are the only person who made me want to be better, not out of pride or for what others think, but because being better is the only way to be worthy of you. If I could ask for one more chance, just one last chance, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm telling the truth. And if you decide you never want to see me again, I'll understand and I'll accept the pain I deserve. But if there's a small part of you that still believes in us, I'll be waiting for you. Forever yours, Arthur." Claire clutched the letter, her heart a tempest of emotions. Anger, sadness, and a love that stubbornly refused to die. The choice was agonizing. Believe in the possibility of change or protect herself and walk away. The next day blurred into a battle of emotions, each minute a tug of war between forgiveness and self-preservation. As evening approached, she knew she had to decide. Against her better judgment, drawn by a force she couldn't deny, Claire found herself walking towards their favorite corner bistro. Her heart pounded, each step heavy with hesitation, doubt, and a fragile hope battling with reason. When she arrived, she saw Arthur standing alone, his gaze fixed on the horizon. As he turned and saw her, his eyes lifted, filled with a mixture of surprise and desperate hope. "I didn't come here to give you a definitive answer, Arthur," Claire said, her voice firm but soft. "I came because there's still a part of me that wants to believe. I can't promise it will be easy or that I trust you right now, but I'm willing to try, as long as you are too." Arthur stepped closer, not touching her, but his eyes radiating silent gratitude. "I will spend every day trying to regain your trust, Claire. I will never give you a reason to doubt me again. And even if it takes forever, I'll never stop proving that my feelings are real. Claire looked at him, a faint, hesitant smile touching her lips. Still unsure, still guarded, but a flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. She knew the road ahead would be arduous, fraught with challenges. But something deep within her whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. In that moment, they both knew the real gamble they were taking was for love, not victory. Arthur Sterling, determined to win back Claire's trust, was prepared to face any obstacle. He was a changed man, or so he believed, the manipulative player replaced by someone capable of genuine love. But fate, it seemed, had one final, devastating test in store. As Arthur worked tirelessly to rebuild their fragile connection, he noticed a subtle shift in Claire, a growing pensiveness. One evening, after a quiet dinner at her apartment, she seemed more distant, lost in thought. Arthur reached for her hand, but she gently drew it back, taking a deep breath, her eyes filled with a storm of emotions. "Arthur," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "there's something I need to tell you. Before we go any further, you need to know something that could change everything between us." A knot of dread tightened in Arthur's stomach. He braced himself, sensing something monumental was coming, but nothing could have prepared him for Claire's next words. "Arthur, when I found out about the bet, when I realized you'd been playing me, I was destroyed." Claire paused, struggling to maintain her composure, tears shimmering in her eyes. "And it was then, in a moment of weakness, of utter pain, that I made a mistake. I turned to someone else, Hank." Arthur froze, the world tilting on its axis. Hank. His name was a poisoned dart piercing his heart. Hank, the architect of the bet, the cynical instigator now. With Claire? He remembered Hank's smug smile, his veiled contempt. His greatest rival had infiltrated the one place Arthur had become vulnerable. You did what?" Arthur's voice was a ragged whisper, raw pain and a surge of anger rising within him. Claire's eyes fell, tears now silently streaming down her cheeks. "I was broken, Arthur. I thought you'd never been honest with me. And Hank? He was there, offering comfort, when I felt utterly alone." Arthur recoiled, his mind reeling. The pain of her words was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. He'd played with fire, manipulating Claire, but he never imagined his deceit would drive her into the arms of his enemy. "I didn't do it to hurt you," Claire continued, her voice weak but firm. "I did it because I was lost, confused, and in that moment, I thought he was the only one being honest. But now, I see, Hank didn't want to help me. He wanted to hurt you, to destroy you, through me." Arthur's heart shattered. What began as a cruel game between friends had morphed into an emotional battlefield, the ultimate casualty Claire's trust, their fragile hope. "So, what was it for you, Claire?" Arthur asked, his tone softer now, almost pleading. "Was it revenge? A way to hurt me like I hurt you?" Claire shook her head, her tear-filled gaze meeting Arthur's. "No, Arthur. I realized I was just a pawn in a game we both played, in different ways. But I also realized that despite everything, I fell in love with you, and that's a feeling I can't ignore, no matter how hard I try." Arthur closed his eyes, the weight of her words crushing him. The betrayal still burned, but he knew he had no right to judge. He was the architect of this disaster. Suddenly, a shadow fell across their table at the corner bistro. Hank. A cynical smile plastered on his face, he approached, radiating smug satisfaction. Well, Hank drawled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Good to see you two lovebirds patching things up. Just wanted to check in, see if the great Arthur Sterling finally learned that playing with people's feelings can have consequences." Arthur surged to his feet, his eyes burning with a controlled fury. "You preyed on Claire's vulnerability, Hank," Arthur spat, his voice low and dangerous. "You tried to exploit her pain to destroy what I was trying to build. You didn't do it for her, Hank. You did it out of pure, petty hatred for me." Hank shrugged, his smile widening. "Maybe that's true, Arthur, or maybe I just showed Claire who you really are, a fraud, incapable of truly loving anyone." Before Arthur could retaliate, Claire stepped forward, her voice cutting through the charged air. Her face was calm, but a steely resolve hardened her eyes. "Enough, Hank," Claire said, her voice firm, silencing both men. "You took advantage of my pain to feed your own ego, but it doesn't matter anymore. I don't need you to show me who Arthur is. I know who he is. With all his mistakes, his flaws, and yes, his desperate attempts to change, and that's why I'm here, with him, not you." Hank's smug smile faltered, replaced by stunned disbelief. He was speechless. Arthur, reeling from Claire's revelation, felt a wave of emotions wash over him: relief, love, profound gratitude. Claire turned to Arthur, her expression softening, and took his hand. "I'm not forgiving you for the past, Arthur," she said, her voice gentle but resolute. "But I'm giving you a chance to prove we can have a future, not perfect, but honest, real." Arthur, holding Claire's hand as if it were a lifeline, felt a lump form in his throat. "Claire," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion, "all I want is that chance. I'll spend every second of my life showing you I'm not the man who hurt you, that I'm willing to fight, not to win a bet, but to be worthy of your love." As they gazed into each other's eyes, they both knew that despite the betrayals, the pain, a flame still flickered between them, unyielding. They had faced their demons, navigated the manipulations of others, and now they stood at the precipice of something real. The challenge wasn't forgetting the past, but embracing it as a brutal lesson, a catalyst for growth, for a deeper, more authentic love. In the reflection of each other's eyes, they saw not just their own transformation, but the fragile, precious love that had blossomed amidst the lies. It was a new beginning, not perfect, not easy, but real, honest, and built on a truth they had finally dared to face together.